Welcome to day 4 of the Paris Airshow from here. It's another beautiful day after some pretty bad weather earlier this morning, but the sun has come out. You know what? We have something really amazing here, and a lot of people are looking at what's behind me. It's called Vahana. It's actually an experimental aircraft, believe it or not. This is what they're sometimes calling the flying taxi. What is it? Well, the idea, and it's done about 80 flights already, it's all electrical, vertical takeoff. You arrive at the airport, and rather than having to take a bus or at the underground, you get on one of these, it goes up, and zoom, it takes you straight to your location in the center of the city. It's an amazing thing. Like I said, it's already done 80 flights already. It's one of the most popular demonstrations we've got out here at the moment. Anyway, in case you missed day 3, how could you possibly have missed day 3? What you do need to know is that so many announcements have been made as the fighter planes come overhead again. Anyway, here's a look at some of the highlights that you missed from yesterday. So as you can no doubt hear, the Rafale behind me doing its part in the air show, an amazing plane, amazing noise as well. You know, I'm on the static display next to the nerve center of Airbus, and right here we have so many planes parked here, coming in and coming out. Yesterday we said goodbye to the A220 from Baltic Air, and Air Asia's aircraft as well took off, and in came in the aircraft from Air Mauritius. They've happily and very kindly brought over their A330neo, which is actually just in front of me. That's a great aircraft as well. And this static display has so many different planes. We have the French Air Force's MMRT, which we explained to you yesterday. As I can hear that plane going above me right now, as this plane coming in from Mauritius, taking its place. There's not actually that much space, so it takes a real lot of work to get all these planes here in in this parking lot. It's not easy to fit them in as well. You can hear me just over those warplanes which are flying above in the air show, and of course we'll have the A350 very soon, and we're lucky to have one of our most well-known test pilots, Frank Chapman, who'll come and tell you about that on the A350. So do stay tuned in the next 10 minutes or so as he comes in and talks about that. So here's the Air Mauritius aircraft there, parking in its position, beautiful shots there. Yep, so there you have amazing shots of that. What you also need to know is that a lot of announcements have been made today as well, not just yesterday. There was a press conference with the CEO of Airbus. We'll be hopefully speaking to him tomorrow as well, basically outlining some of the key events that have been taking place, and of course the 330neo orders. The extra long-range orders as well have been really amazing since the announcement that it was launched just on Monday. Very important there as well. One thing which Airbus does as well, which is very important, is something called the business services. Business services is basically making sure, just like with your car, it's constantly maintained and it's always in service, so there's never any problems, like if you have a flat car battery or something. It's the same issues with the airline industry. Let's see this report with Remy Maillard, who's the expert from business services at Airbus. We've all been there. You know you've got a really urgent meeting, you get in your car and it won't start because there's been a problem, say, with the battery. Well, imagine you're running an airline and you have hundreds of passengers, and say there's a problem with one of the parts, and that holds up the whole journey and all your services all day. It'd be a nightmare for an airline. And they want to make sure that doesn't happen here at Airbus Services. They have a special department which is really working closely with the airlines to ensure that problems like that don't happen. It's called preventive surgery in a way. For more on this, I spoke to the expert, Remy Maillard. So Remy, what exactly are you doing? Are you trying to provide some sort of peace of mind to the airlines?
Well, look, Chris, yes. You know, the airlines are facing a very fierce competitive environment. They can rely on a growing traffic that doubles nearly every 15 years, but the yields are decreasing. The airlines, they want to rely on a robust ecosystem of services. They want to focus on the core business, transporting packs from A to B. They want no surprises. They want zero surprises. For the airline, it's all about operational efficiency, availability, and differentiation. And this is what we deliver to the airline. This is what we provide to the airlines.
There's a lot of talk of predictive maintenance. What does that mean?
Predictive maintenance, it's about planning the unplanned. It's about scheduling the unscheduled. It's about taking the right maintenance action at the right time in an optimized way. And this secures the airline operation. This means operational performance. This means cost competitiveness for the airline.
Give me an example. So it's like the airline knows if a part needs changing well before the part breaks down?
Correct. We're following up on the health monitoring of the components. We are following up on the aging of the components, and we can anticipate any failure. And this, you know, we have already, we're working with 10 different airlines on Skywise predictive maintenance. And our Allegiant Air customer told us that with Skywise, they can save in average 1 AOG every day, 1 aircraft on ground every day.
I think you've been pretty busy the last few days at this airshow. What have you been doing?
Well, indeed, Chris, we've been very busy. We unveiled a lot of firsts, a lot of innovations, starting with our FHS flight hour services powered by Skywise, using the power of data analytics to optimize the inventories, to optimize the repair, to optimize the logistics. We also announced a partnership together with Air France to co-develop a solution for maintenance training based on virtual reality that is quite promising. And last, we explore new cabin concepts to differentiate and also to focus on the passenger well-being.
Okay. Well, Remy, thanks very much. I appreciate it.
Well, look, Chris, there's something else that I want to show you. Come with me.
Okay.
Well, Chris, this is the A220 behind us, and we're very excited to launch our flight hour services on the A220. The A220 is an inclusive member of the Airbus family and a key part of our services strategy. And to further enhance our flight hour services, we'll partner together with Delta Takeoffs. We believe that combining the forces and the proven capabilities of Airbus services together with the ones of Delta Takeoffs, we'll be able to deliver a highly performing and highly competitive service immediately to the A220 operators.
Okay, well, that sounds like really interesting stuff there. Thanks very much for your time, Remy.
Thank you, Chris.
So there you have some very important messages there on about Airbus's services and making sure that the airlines stay constantly in business and don't have to worry about any things about repairs or anything like that, to have a smooth business. As we have there Rafaela just above me. And anyway, Airbus has some amazing helicopters, military helicopters, civil helicopters. Here's an example. Take a look at this with our interview here we have about our helicopter sector.
So the HIL is a program which aims at replacing for the French forces 5 types of helicopters currently in service: Alouette, Dauphin, Panther, Fennec and Gazelle aircraft. So it will perform a large variety of missions, from reconnaissance missions for the Army to anti-ship missions for the Navy, search and rescue missions, or protection of the airspace for the Air Force. We've been working on this program with the French forces since roughly 10 years. We have achieved a convergence on the previous years up to today. We have now reached a good maturity level in terms of definition, in terms of configuration of the aircraft. The French Ministry of Defense has announced end of May the launch of the program for 2021, and first deliveries are planned in 2026 for the Army. Then we'll follow in 2028 deliveries for the Navy and then for the Air Force. The HIL is based on the civilian platform H160. All the development which has been carried out on the H160, all the patents which have been concluded thanks to the 160, all the innovations are embedded on the product we want to deliver to the French forces. Having a civilian version already in service to build a military configuration brings a lot of advantages. First, savings in terms of development. French MOD is able to finance the militarization of this platform because we start from a platform already existing. Savings in the support of this aircraft. Why? Because we will benefit from a maintenance ecosystem which will be created for the civilian version. We will have high volumes of the platform on the market. It will help to have aircraft available and cost efficient. This machine has been defined from the very beginning on the civilian version to be easy to maintain. A specific effort has been placed in the accessibility to all components on the aircraft in order to minimize the effort our customers will have to place in the support of that aircraft in order to be cost efficient. We will do the same for the militarization. It will make a significant difference compared to other military platforms. We want an aircraft available, we want an aircraft cost efficient.
So there you get some amazing impressions of our helicopters, both military and civil here, and we have some of them here, and they're getting a lot of people looking at them. Well, I'm very pleased now to be joined by Julie Kitcher, who's the new Executive Vice President for Communications and Corporate Affairs. Good to see you, Julie.
Good to see you, Chris.
So this is your first one in your new role at an air show like this. What's your first thoughts?
Just look around you. It's pretty difficult not to be impressed, I would say. So yeah, the air show for me, and I've been through many in my former role as head of investor relations, but it's the most fantastic opportunity to bring together the world's aviation industry, aerospace industry together in one place. So many customers from around the world and stakeholders around the world to showcase, our products, our people, our innovation, and really, focus on this fantastic industry. I'm also really, really proud to be leading a global communications team. The brand and reputational strength of Airbus is key, and they're doing a fantastic job this week. I'm pretty sure everybody will agree, and in particular this year for us, as we celebrate our 50 years anniversary, demonstrating the pioneering spirit that is Airbus.
And as you're speaking to me, we can see the 350 there, getting ready for its takeoff, and Frank Chapman will be commenting on that. Just what stood out for you in particular throughout this week?
Well, look at the plane; it's fantastic. When we think about the overall purpose of Airbus, what drives Airbus, we're uniting people and safeguarding people, serving citizens around the world, and I think we're demonstrating that in a lot of the commercial activities that have taken place this week. We've unveiled the A321 XLR long range. It brings even more connectivity, higher payload, higher range to our customers around the globe. At the same time, we've had the FCAS. That's a real demonstration of a European partnership in the defence industry to safeguard European sovereignty in defence for the long term. Personally, I've had the opportunity to take part in the Iowa event this week, supporting women leaders in the industry and diversity, balance for business in aviation in a wider sense to drive long-term competitiveness in a sustainable way for the industry. And of course, while we talk about sustainability, one of the big themes this Le Bourget is really the drive towards a more long-term sustainable aviation industry. We want to be at the forefront of that with our partners. We've seen 7 industrial players, including Airbus, together signing a joint commitment to long-term sustainability goals for the sector, and I think it's really exciting to be part of this next chapter.
Julie, see the A350 is about to take off. Thank you very much for your time. We'll be hearing a lot more from you over the coming months, I'm sure.
I look forward to it. Thank you. Bye-bye.
And I'm really pleased now to have Frank Chapman. Anyone who's an aircraft geek knows this man. He's one of our top pilots here, test pilots. He's been flying in the show all week, except today, basically.
Yeah, that's right, Chris. We've got a day off today. I think the 350 has a day off tomorrow, and so we're here to just enjoy the show, enjoy the flying.
So you can see the pictures here.
Yes, indeed.
Tell me what's going on here.
Well, we've obviously the crew have had their briefing this morning. They're out on the runway, just waiting for the call from air traffic control to let them know that the display area is clear and that they can start their display. And once they start the display, they effectively have the area dedicated to them, so that they can use the airspace as they see fit to perform their manoeuvres.
I think it's taking off now. There's a 4-man team on board, right?
Yeah, there's a 4-man team. We typically have a flight engineer in the cockpit just to keep an eye on things while the guys are maneuvering, because they're obviously doing everything visually, manually, and we have a third set of eyes effectively to monitor the systems for them while they're flying the display. We also have a flight test engineer down the back who's looking at the flight test instrumentation in slightly more depth. The airplane itself is typically in exactly the configuration of a passenger airplane in terms of flight controls, so the maneuvers that it's doing are really no different than if we were flying a passenger airplane that we were selling to one of our customers.
Why does it seem to it seems to be hovering?
I think it's just because it's flying quite slowly. We've got the flaps and slats out. That's very typical for this type of display because we're trying to keep the aircraft in a very confined space in front of the crowd. So if we retracted the flaps and the slats, and the speed would be higher, the radius of turn would be higher, and the airplane would disappear over the horizon before it came back. So to keep it within the confines of the display area at Paris and at Farnborough, for example, we keep the flaps out during the display.
Tell me a little bit about the A350. I know you were flying the 330 this week, but you know this plane pretty well as well, don't you?
Yeah, of course. Well, there are 3 of us that do the displays, and we take it in turns with the different airplanes and the different venues. Typically, the French pilots fly at Paris and the British pilots fly in Farnborough, but occasionally when we're bringing more airplanes to Paris, then we obviously take it in turns and bring the other pilots in as well. So I've got the privilege of flying 330 this week, and my colleague Hugh is flying the 350 today for us.
And so it's like a 7-minute flight. Tell me what kind of maneuvers they'll be doing right now.
Well, basically, there's only a limited amount we can do with this big airplane. Obviously, it's impressive from its size and the low speed that you see it flying around the show here in Paris. Basically, we can't do much more than a bit of low speed work with the gear down, clean the gear up, turns within the confines of the airspace. And the difficult thing at Paris is that we have Charles de Gaulle Airport just very, very close. So we have to keep it really quite tight to remain within the confines of Le Bourget and not impinge on the approach traffic into Charles de Gaulle. So that's really probably one of the most challenging aspects, particularly when the winds are strong and the winds are blowing us from the southwest up towards Charles de Gaulle.
Is that what it is today? Are these are southwest winds?
It's a southwesterly wind, and it's an on-crowd wind and pushing us northbound towards the Charles de Gaulle approach. So it's a little bit tricky.
Here you go, just like the football replays. You can see the replay of the takeoff here. Is this a good takeoff?
I don't know. Should we ask them afterwards? No, it looks fine to me. They typically for the takeoff on the display, we hold the airplane on the ground a little bit longer than we would normally do to get a little bit more energy. Bearing in mind the airplane is very lightweight. We're around about 186 tons on the 350 on this takeoff. And if you bear in mind that typically landing weights for a commercial operation will be in the 240, 250 ton mark, this is a very light takeoff. And as a result, the climb out is quite impressive.
Well, you can see it there. Okay.
Well, this is the slow speed flyby. Hasn't got the gear down, but he's flying. You can see the angle of attack, the angle of the airplane in relation to the horizon. And now he's turning out to then come back the other direction.
We're doing a Facebook Live with you actually at 3:15 French time. We've had lots of questions, but one thing which a lot of people are asking is, tell me your own kind of biography, your CV.
Oh wow. Well, I studied engineering to start with at university. Have a master's in engineering, and then I worked for the Royal Air Force, initially as an operational pilot on the Harrier, the Phantom, then into flight tests, flying an assortment of aircraft for the Royal Air Force, and then being sent on secondment to the United States to fly the F-16, do development work on the F-16. I left at 38, joined Monarch Airlines flying the 330 and the 320, so I started to be introduced really to the Airbus products at that point. Flew the line for a while and was then invited to come down to Toulouse to join the team for the A380 program and then subsequently 350.
So how long have you been with Airbus then?
So I arrived in early 2004, so 15 years or so.
Enjoying it?
Of course, love it,
Right answer.
love it. No, it's super interesting. We have some very, very bright engineers that we work with, which is exceptionally interesting for us as pilots. And a lot of manual flying, a lot of interesting programs, obviously lots of meetings and simulator work, but of course the flying is exceptional. And this is the icing on the cake really coming to Paris and Farnborough.
Because people kind of, well, maybe they don't realize, but it's not just the pilots. You've got a whole big team of flight test engineers all working with you on a constant basis, right?
Yeah, indeed, and particularly in the run-up to the very early flights that we do, we have a big team within the for those early flights in the telemetry room. We have a link to the ground, so engineers, a number of engineers are watching the systems, especially when we just designed the aeroplane. It's going out for its first few flights to make sure that we keep each other safe, basically.
Have you got some other exciting flights coming up soon? You're going to say your holidays, aren't you?
Well, we're always working on developing the airplane. So there are always interesting things to do. We've just done the VMCG testing on the 330 Neo.
What does that mean?
That means we have to prove that the airplane is controllable up to obviously up to a speed on the ground, or down to a speed, I should say, the V1 speed. If the engine fails above V1, the pilots have to be able to keep the airplane straight on the runway, and we need to quote that V1 speed such that they can stop. If an engine fails and they need to stop, they can stop before the end of the runway. But then if they're above that speed, they have sufficient control to keep the airplane straight and take the airplane into the air. And so that's what we have to do. We have to test the airplane on the ground, fail an engine, and look at the deviation across the runway and make sure that the pilots can maintain control at a given speed.
And I think it's landing now, right?
I think he's coming in for his final landing. Yeah, looks like it.
Unless he does a quick one.
Yeah, unless he does a quick go around, but I think he's going to land on 03. If the wind's not too strong, we land on 03 here. If it's significantly up above 10 knots, 20 kilometers an hour, then we'll typically reposition for runway 25. But
03. That means there's 3 runways here.
No, that's the direction runway. So
okay.
030 is the heading as he comes into land. So he's on the ground now. Obviously, the spoiler's deployed, reverse deployed, and he'll turn off fairly shortly.
And are you flying again tomorrow?
We are. We're flying Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So, and we have the 380 joining us.
That's right. That's right.
That'll be nice for the public days.
And there's hundreds of thousands of people for those family days, aren't there? The public
there
days.
are. Yeah.
I mean, do you enjoy the air shows? Is one of the highlights for you of the year?
Yeah. Well, it is because it's relatively relaxed for us. We enjoy meeting our test pilot colleagues from Boeing, Embraer, Bombardier, etc.
You talk to each other?
We do. We have a very good relationship. It's a small world, and we all know each other quite well, so we meet at the various shows. But it also gives us the chance to meet people from other parts of the company as well. Sales guys, marketing guys, communications guys. So that actually in itself is very, very good for us.
In
for
fact,
our general knowledge of how the company works.
In fact, you told me that often, here's just a replay of it again, of the plane coming into land.
Yeah.
In fact, you told me a little earlier that when you're not flying, you're actually spending a lot of time with the customers, talking to them about the plane, getting their feedback, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, particularly from the pilots, the people who are actually operating the airplane. It's really important that we use their experience and knowledge to improve our products. So we make a point of inviting them to Toulouse. I mean, we meet them here as well, but we invite them to Toulouse to tell us what issues they have and ask them how we can improve. And it's a joint effort, really, between us and them to try and give them the best product we possibly can.
And anytime there's new innovations, I mean, you're playing a key role in testing out all these innovations, right? I mean,
yeah, sure.
Just the last thing, I think there's a need for 300,000 pilots over the next 20, 30 years or something. So if people are keen, they should.
Oh, absolutely. No, I can thoroughly recommend it as a career. I think everybody who flies, whether they fly helicopters, transport airplanes, fighters, enjoys their time. So no, I would thoroughly recommend it to youngsters who are interested, and we're more than happy for them to visit us here on the stand at Airbus, and we'll talk all day about airplanes.
Frank, Thank you so much. I know you're going to do a
Thanks,
Facebook
Chris.
Live for us very soon, but I know our audience will love having you here, okay? I
Nice
really
to see you.
appreciate it,
Yeah,
okay?
thank you. Bye-bye.
So, just to recap there, that was Frank Chapman. He'll be doing a Facebook Live with us very soon. We're very lucky to have him. He takes to the skies again tomorrow. What have I got here on my microphone? Well, you can see it here. 50 years Airbus is celebrating its 50th birthday, actually. It was launched 50 years ago. And one thing you need to know is that if you go to airbus.com, we have 50 stories for 50 years. So if you just go there, you'll find a whole bunch of amazing facts, stories about Airbus in these last 50 years. So, do look at that. Stay tuned. We will have a Facebook Live soon as well with Frank again. And in the meantime, enjoy the show, enjoy looking at everything on our website, and we'll of course be back with you again tomorrow. Thank you so much for being with us. It's been a pleasure.